Hello and welcome to the 1000 Authors Show. I'm Vicky Fraser, and today I have replaced my husband with the really rather marvelous Hillary Weiss.
Oh, hi! Thank you so much for having me. I'm so happy to be here.
Thank you for coming on the show. This is super exciting. If you haven't already seen Hillary's stuff, website, what she does, the business, go have a look because it's so bloody fun. I love all of your photos. You're like one of the most colourful people in marketing, which is fantastic, and in the best possible way. And you've got glitter balls, which is awesome.
Exactly. I actually just did another photo shoot, and we have actually 2 disco balls this time, so I literally do have glitter balls. It's a very exciting moment to be in branding where we can be liberated in such a way.
I know, right? And with that in mind, can you tell us a little bit about what you do?
Absolutely. So I'm Hillary Weiss, as Vicky said. I run an organization or a company called Statement Piece Studio at HillaryWeiss.com. And what I really specialize in is helping business owners define what I call their statement piece, which is sort of the radical point of view or perspective that makes them crazy, relevant, and exciting to their target market. So it's sort of a point of view, it's a perspective, it's a narrative through line for their brand that makes them totally unmissable. And I do that through creative direction, I do that through coaching and consulting, and I do that through copywriting. And it is just really a big blast to do what I do, especially in this day and age, where online brands can kind of be, you hit a stone and kind of throw one at this stage, and really helping brands define and explore and explain what makes them so unique in the market is such a fun challenge and is such an exciting process for brands, I think, and for creatives of all types. I work in a huge range of industries. I've done work in SaaS, I've done work in lifestyle businesses and female empowerment businesses, business and marketing, all of those really wonderful fields. And it's so amazing to discover every single time, if you spend enough time thinking about your own perspective, developing your own ideas, pushing out your own message, you're going to become unmistakable because you are so clear on what it is that you offer, and it creates insane value for people, insane connection, and just fabulous results. Sorry, oh geez. All right, go ahead.
And we're back. I'll edit that out, it's fine. That was, yeah. Lost my own train of thought now. I'll edit this bit out as well. That all sounds really, really cool, and I love the idea of helping businesses stand out because, like you said, it can be really samey in the online business world. And I know that when I first started out, because I used to be a copywriter as well, I'm recovered now. The first thing you do is you look at what everybody else is doing, and you're like, oh, what do I need to do? Look at what other people are doing, and so you end up with this like massive sea of sameness. So, what's the first thing you get your clients to do when you're starting out with them to help them stand out?
So this is actually a little exercise that I love to do, even on sales calls, because I think everybody should do it. Not enough people think about this because they feel like it's too negative. Stay with me, I promise it's not that negative. And this is part of my statement piece framework, which is my freebie. It's just all about generating really original ideas for content, products, anything that you can imagine. And the first thing I talk to my clients about is what do they want to see more of and less of in their industry? Like, what are they totally sick of seeing? What are they geeking out about? What's getting them excited right now? And both things are going to basically unlock your brain. Asking yourself this question creates such powerful results and interesting ideas because you're looking around at sort of what's common, what you're sick of seeing, what's been done to death. And really, the secret to becoming unmissable in the market is learning how to zag when they zig in your own way. And so having customers and clients talk about that, it can be a little scary, being like, oh, I don't want to call anybody out. I don't want to be an asshole. But it would be really nice if this would be wiped from the earth forever. It's everything from marketing strategies to products to the way things are taught and shaped. All of that really matters because you could have an entrepreneur sitting on a really innovative idea, but not having the courage to move forward with it because it's never been done like that before and they're not sure how to experiment. Or you have an organization who is about to put something out that they're not excited to sell because it sounds like everything else. So I think it's really, really important to have those moments and think about that first. Before you think about the why, before you think about the mission, what kind of splash do you want to create? What do you understand about your industry and market? And what ways are you uniquely positioned to disrupt just based on the way you see things?
Yeah, I love that idea. I love the idea of looking at what is pissing you off in your industry and then and you know what, this happens to me all the time, and I find it's a really good wake-up call because I'll be reading something from somebody that I admire, comes into my inbox and I'll be like, that's just what? And then I'll look at it and I'll be like, maybe that reaction is because I've just done that and I'm pissed off with myself for doing that. And it's just like,
how dare you? Yeah.
How dare you call me out, even though you don't know my feelings.
You don't know me. You don't know my life.
I know.
But it's absolutely true. But I think that's the other side of the coin, right? You always want to make sure when you're having those like anti or advocate discussions, that's what I call them in the framework, that you're not an asshole about it. You know, like if you are going to critique the industry, don't be like, everyone who does this is a fucking idiot and you can only listen to me. That's not the way to do it. And I think there's some of that energy there sometimes. So it's totally normal to sometimes have an adverse reaction, you know, to wonder like, excuse me? But hopefully it holds up a lens and makes us all look at ourselves and examine what we're doing a little more closely.
Yeah, absolutely. I always allow myself 10 minutes to have like a proper shit fit and temper tantrum. And then I'm like, okay, do they have a point? It's like, yes, they do.
Good. Fine.
Fine.
Exactly. But it also creates that trust and connection more, especially if you're kind about it, especially if you come at it with empathy, being like, I understand this is what's being taught, but here's what actually works.
Yeah. So how do you help people find the courage to do that? Because it is scary. It's scary to stick your head up and say, you know, actually, I think something different. So how do you work with your clients to help them feel better about that?
For me, I think at the end of the day, confidence comes from clarity, right? So sitting down with my clients and figuring out, like forcing them to hold up what they do and the way they see things to the light and kind of examine it from every angle and have the conversation with me first. Because I find it's a really powerful thing to bounce ideas around in that respect, because you have that feedback from somebody. It really helps to have a friend you trust, or as Margot Aaron, co-host of my show, call them creative allies, to say like, here's how I want to come at this. Does this make me sound like an asshole? You know, is this something that's even worth talking about? And have them give you the thumbs up or the thumbs down. FYI, your creative ally is very rarely your mom, your spouse who works outside of the industry, or your dog. So try to avoid asking any of them. But find someone in your industry who maybe is a step or two ahead of you, who does the kind of work that you want to be doing, and ask them. But in terms of what I do for my clients, it's really clarity about having the conversation with them about why they do things the way they do them, what they really believe in, what kind of mark and legacy they want to leave in the industry, and then reflecting that back to them to say, well, if you want to stand for A, B, and C, if you want to do C, D, and E, then this is where it starts. And you don't have to create a ruckus. You don't have to intentionally start putting, controversial content out there to spark a rigorous discussion, as those annoying people on Facebook try to say it. But really understanding that you are not taking a contrarian or counter approach for contrarian or counter approach's sake, that it's a means to an end. It ties into your mission. It ties into how you want to kind of wake people up. And I find when it's tied to that, when it's anchored in that deeper truth and those bigger goals, then it feels a lot less scary and actually even a lot more exciting to start putting these ideas out there.
Yeah. I just love that message, because it's just, I know I work with so many people who find it really difficult to stick their heads up. And, I've been doing this quite a long time and I find it difficult as well. Like I'll have a moment of I'm going to vomit when I hit go on something. And then it's out there, and then it's like you get some good feedback. It's like, okay, it's fine.
Fine. Yeah, it's rarely ever as bad as you think it's going to be. There's like the two extremes. It's either like everyone's going to read it and they're going to hate it, or nobody's going to read it and then I will die alone in obscurity in a cabin in the woods. And there's neither of those things is really set to happen statistically. The truth is somewhere on a spectrum in the middle. And also realizing that is part of sort of building, understanding that showing up is a momentum thing. It's a habit. Creativity, making content, showing up, having the discussions you want to have, putting your ideas out there is not like a switch you flip on and off, where like one day you're doing nothing and the next day you make a post and it's gone viral and you're famous. It's just not how it happens. But having that clarity of like what this whole thing is for, why you're putting ideas out there in the first place, it really kind of changes the game for you in understanding that you're showing up for yourself, building momentum, all of this good stuff.
Yeah. So talk to me about statement pieces then, which is all tied into that. How do you define a statement piece for a business, and what do you do?
Absolutely. So a statement piece is sort of the big idea. It's another name for it, but I call it the statement piece because it's drawn from a habit of mine, which is always wearing, a statement piece of clothing or jewelry wherever I go. Like right now, my sweater says "Strong Female Lead." It's backwards on the Zoom recording, but hopefully it's the straight way when this launches. But because, and I was wondering, you know, when I was creating this new brand, I was doing a lot of self-reflection, because that's really where the best brands come from. It's not just on the why, the mission, the product, but it's about you. It's about the founder. It's about like the philosophical energy behind it. You know, where does all this come from? Where did all this start? Why did you have this particular idea? And for me, it was, again, that I'm always wearing a statement piece of clothing or jewelry. And the reason why I'm doing that is because I want people, I have a Godzilla of a personality. I'm a massive extrovert. So it's really important for people for me to sort of not have to tone myself down necessarily, or be something that I'm not, or try to shrink myself. That's important for my mental health and existence. So the reason why I'm always wearing a statement piece of some kind is because I want to communicate who I am to people who don't know me, so that they can immediately, just like in marketing, self-select in or self-select out. Because if you don't want anything to do with me because I'm wearing a sweater that reads strong female lead, that's totally fine. Bless and release. Chances are you're not my person. But if you're like, where the hell did you get that sweater? That is a conversation starter. That is an opportunity for connection. And that is a really wonderful compliment. Thank you. I got it online. But I think, so that's sort of what I wanted to do for businesses, because time and time again in my years as a copywriter, I was seeing these business owners who were defaulting to jargon and like traditional expected speak in their industry because they are too shy to step out of line. They were worried it was going to make them feel sound unprofessional, and people wouldn't want to work with them if they wrote like they spoke, or if they used swear words, or if they, you know, decided in one client's case that she wanted to tell everybody to burn the diet books. You know, diet culture was over. What's next? And there's a lot of fear deviating from industry norms in that regard, but it's also the most powerful marketing tool that you have. Mm-hmm. So a lot of my processes with clients on digging up that statement piece, which is defined as sort of a point of view, personal philosophy, or big idea that makes you radically relevant to your perfect people. So a statement piece could be a blog post. It could be a product. It could be the narrative thread behind your brand. All of these things are really about defining what you stand for, and building out everything from there. And when I do it with my coaching and copywriting and creative direction clients, where that really comes from is spending time doing a deep interview process. And I'll use my coaching clients as an example. So we'll sit down together and we'll talk about, first of all, what do you even want in your business? Like, where do you want to be? What do you want to be doing more of and less of? What do you want to stand for? You know, what are you kind of looking to do? And then we create a strategy, kind of a statement piece strategy around that builds the bridge between where they are now and where they want to be. And it's a lot of work around developing their kind of cornerstone as a thought leader. So what that usually looks like is having a deep conversation about the way they do their work, what they're really, really good at, what comes really, really naturally to them, what kind of things blow their clients away and help them create amazing results. We hone in on that and create a signature, which is the statement piece, then create a signature framework around it. How do you apply this? How does somebody else do something similar to this? And then we work that framework out into everything that they do. So products, programs, packages, and offers, their opt-in, their content. It's always a really strong golden thread of a narrative through line that kind of creates that consistency, that feeling of sort of next level branding and clarity, that attention grabbing content, and everything they need to kind of take this to the next level.
Awesome. Love it. I love the idea of having such a, because I think I found a lot of problems with small businesses. They have like a million ideas, because small business owners tend to do that. And then they try and do them all at once, which is always stressful.
Always.
And then they don't link together. It's like they've got 3 things over here, and then there's a couple of things over there, and then there's something else over there, and none of it really goes together. So I love the idea of tying everything together so that it all makes sense in one big story.
Exactly. There's always, and I'm sure it's the same story in books, pun intended, where it's like you think a million pieces, how do you string them all together in a way that builds on itself? It's very tied to storytelling in that way, for sure.
Yeah. And with books as well, it's really funny because people are like, oh, I've got 1,000 ideas and they all need to go in this one book. And I'm like, no, mate. You know,
the hell they do. The hell they do. Yeah. And that's the other thing too. I think simplifying to kind of one core idea is really powerful for people. And I do this in product design too, because I've done a lot for clients, a lot for myself. And what it comes down to every single time is simplifying. And whenever you're working on something or like developing content or, you know, outlining an offer, remove about 30% of whatever content you have. And then because it's really, the truth is really, what is that beeping? Is that coming from me or is that coming from you?
I'm not beeping.
Okay. Must be my house. It must be outside. Sorry. We'll edit that out. But where was I going with this? Oh yeah, simplifying. Because I think a lot of times we think about value as information, like how much can I stuff into this book? How much can I stuff into this product so I can make sure everyone knows the theory and then the do's and don'ts and then the this and that, and then they can finally start taking action. When in reality, you know, helping people do something and make a change in their lives, whatever your work is intended to do, has to be like this. It has to be the shortest distance. Yes. Like Kill Bill trying to punch her way, like a Beatrice Kiddo trying to punch her way out of that coffin in the movie Kill Bill too. That's always what I think about. You have a limited space, but it's got to be a really strong punch, because often people can't eat the whole sandwich. You know, you want to take one little bite at a time. And I'm sure it's the same story for books. You're like, okay, well, we can establish this idea in this book, and then we can put the 500 over here in the 500 idea box, and we'll get to it later.
Yes, exactly. I love the idea of doing like tiny things as well. Because like one of my ideas is tiny beetle steps. That's how you write a book, in tiny beetle steps.
Tiny beetle steps, I love it.
Because baby steps are too big for a lot of people. If you're an expert, a baby step to you is like a giant leap to somebody who isn't an expert in what you do.
Yeah,
I love the idea of breaking it down. I love the idea of, instead of just throwing more information at people, helping them to do something. So once you've done this, you will have a tangible thing.
Yes.
You know, a new skill or whatever. I guess that's something you probably do with your clients as well. It's like, how can you, instead of making just another info product, how can you create something that will, you know, make change?
Absolutely. And it's not just about that too. It's about like how to even talk about it before you sell it. Like, how do you seed it? How do you get people excited about it? How do you start positioning yourself as the authority and expert on this before launch day? How do you think about the sales conversation you're going to want to have, you know, before you have to sit down and write the sales page? And I actually have a mini product about this called Like Lightning, which is super small little offer, super affordable. And it's all about like how to build that idea from start to finish. Like, day one, figuring out what the hell you want in your business. Day two, figuring out, doing a brain dump of all the ideas in your head and learning how to hone in on the right one. Yeah. Day three, outlining the content and like making it real and figuring out when to put everything like into your calendar and when you're gonna have time to work on it. And then day four, messaging. How do you start talking about the problems and solutions right now, so that when it's time to sell, your people are like, finally, take my money. And in much the same way with the last day's the sales conversation, so that when it comes down to time to write that sales page or those emails, you're like, I know exactly why this is valuable, what it is, who it's for, and why it matters.
Yeah. So where can people get that, please?
You can get that at HillaryWeiss.com/like-lightning. It's called the Like Lightning course, and you can find it also on my website. Just HillaryWeiss.com. If you click around, you're bound to find it.
Awesome. And that link will absolutely be in the show notes and on my website when this goes out. So that will be good. That's very exciting. I love that idea. I'm going to also ask you, how did you get into this? We've done the
industry in general.
Yeah, how did you get into what you do?
So once upon a time, I was a college student studying public relations, and it turns out I did not enjoy public relations, which is always disappointing when you spend 4 years getting a degree in it. And I had done a lot of like internships, and like I was always a hustler, so I was like doing some freelance work on it during college. And then I remember I was at one of my boring internships, and a friend of mine who would end up being my business partner for a few years after that sent me a link to a copywriter called Alexandra Franzen's website. She's kind of OG copywriter, super creative. And I looked at that site and I had never seen anything like it in my life. I didn't know what a copywriter was. I just thought, I guess, the websites and ads wrote themselves. It never really occurred to me. So I was like, and the line in the email that my friend sent was basically like, you could totally do this. Because I'd always loved to write, and I had the marketing kind of background with my PR degree. So I was like, wow, this feels like a really perfect fit. So I did what most of us on the internet do when they find something that excites them. I stalked her for like 6 months from bush to bush online. And then I finally worked up the courage to send her a DM on Twitter being like, hey, do you need like a minion to do your bidding? I'm available, you know, I'm a senior in college, but I would really love to learn how to do what you do. And she was like, actually, yes. So I ended up transcribing her strategy sessions for her, which is great. Actually, no, it was doing the transcription work itself was terrible. Like if you put a gun to my head right now and you were like, transcribe this 2 hours of audio, I'd be like, I'm ready. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to meet God. But so don't ask me to do that, please. But I think what it really came down to at the end of the day was I was listening to a copywriter and strategist have these conversations.
Yeah.
And I sort of learned the ropes that way, because great writing and great copy and great marketing is about not really the writing itself first, but it's about the questions that you ask. It's about how you dig under the layers. And it was really wonderful because I had no real knowledge of kind of how marketing strategy itself, like in action in the digital space, worked at that time. But hearing the questions, I was able to get the information. So I was able to kind of put the pieces together. So that was really powerful for me. And then I just started kind of working up the ranks. I worked for Alex for a little while, and then she was generous enough to give me my first client, who I worked with for free for about 6 months, which was a lot. But I just kind of built it up that way. My name started getting passed around in the B school world. I started doing a lot of work with coaches and yogis and, all of those wonderful folks. And gradually business picked up. I was actually one half of a digital media magic duo called Young Blood Sorcery back in the day. My friend who sent me the email was a designer, so we partnered up, and we eventually split in like 2013 or 2014. But she was a bridesmaid at my wedding. We're still best friends. She just decided to go back to school, but that's sort of how I got my start. And then the consulting and coaching and creative direction piece was when I realized I was doing that naturally for clients, because I was sitting on these calls. This is how it happens to so many of us. Excuse me. I was sitting on calls and being like, don't do that. Do this. Yeah, because this makes sense and this doesn't. And can I make this suggestion? Because I was on the inside of the hull of so many of these like giant marketing and business online ships. So I was like, here's what is working, here's what is not, like, let me help you. And I was doing that for free for years. And then I figured it out, as so many of us do, that, oh my God, people actually want to pay me for that. So then I opened the branding and the brand coaching and consulting line of the business and the creative direction. And I'm actually training with Sarah Ashman of Public Persona, who is a genius. We just got back from the retreat. We're in like the last month of training, and it's been awesome. So creative direction is to be added to my suite of offers as well, and it's just so much fun. So I love what I do.
Yeah, I can tell. And I'm going to jump on something you said there, actually, because I have quite a lot of copywriters listen to the podcast and are in my world, because I used to be a copywriter. And yeah, I love what you said about it's not just writing the copy, it's all the stuff that goes behind it as well. And I don't think not enough copywriters, I think, really understand really understand enough about what they're doing to be able to do that. And so I remember somebody saying to me really early on, prescription without diagnosis is malpractice. And it's like, you need a sales page for this, you need an email series for that. And it's like, well, do you though? Do you know what you need? Because until you know what's on behind the scenes, and I think there's a lot to be said for digging in a little bit further. And that's, I think, a really cool way that a lot of copywriters could stand out, is to offer what you're offering, that background to what you do, to offer that extra layer of, if you really want results, let's go deeper.
And that's the reality, you can, and this is I think where copywriters end up in a little bit of a bind. And I have so much empathy for this, because this has happened to me, where copywriters are suddenly considered responsible for sales results, when in reality there's so much more that goes into a sales process or a launch than just the copy. But because some genius coined the name conversion copywriter, we're like, oh, well, I bring on a conversion copywriter, so it must work. Like, it must convert, when in reality, there's so much more that goes into it, like product market fit, how engaged is your list? Is your list actually yours? Did you buy it from somebody? Like, is this product viable? Are you coming at it from the right sales angle? Is it something people actually need, or is it something you just pulled out of your butt? And that kind of thing. That all matters. Hang on. Sorry, we got a siren.
Yeah.
So much editing for this episode. So that's really the most important piece. I think copywriters have a habit of taking everything onto ourselves. It's kind of a writer habit and a human habit, especially for women copywriters, I find. Yeah. And we beat ourselves up if things don't work, or if like we weren't able to create a miracle or the sales results promised. And that's why if a client ever asks you, like, can you guarantee a conversion percentage? You run. You run as fast as you can in the other direction. You make none of those promises. Because it's weird because nobody blames the designer when the sales page doesn't work.
I know, right? Like, because I was absolutely not getting a copywriter, because obviously I've been a copywriter, and it's really hard. But I think that's why it's so important that they need to understand the whole industry and not just their little writing part of it, because you cannot control, if they've got a shitty back end on their product, you can't control this. Maybe there's
nothing you can do.
Yeah, and they're just like waving them through the door. Bye.
Yeah, exactly. And I think companies too see copywriting, like bringing in a pro copywriter as like the fix. You know, it's like bringing in a professional makeup artist. Well, like they'll do my makeup better, you know, but I still have to have the conversation about what you want. Like a really amazing makeup artist can paint you like, you know, Kim Kardashian, but if you're trying to look like Reese Witherspoon, it's just a totally different story and you're going to be completely upset, even though plenty of people would love to look like Kim. But it's, and this is again, to bring it back to your point, why doing your due diligence with clients and doing this and having a strong grasp of the strategy side of things is only going to help you. Not only is it going to help you figure out what clients actually need. Like I had a client come to me yesterday for website copy and I was like, you have no idea what this brand is. You don't, and that's okay. But so before we do that, I want to do this creative direction work with you because we need to pinpoint what the hell is going on here. And they're like, yes, that's exactly what we need. And that's a really powerful thing for people. And so I think schooling yourself in that and taking the time to understand sort of how the company is actually doing before you sign on protects you, protects them, and make sure you don't end up in one of those weird copywriter scapegoat situations that are getting more and more popular in the online space.
Oh, I know. And literally everything you just said is applicable to almost any business owner in any industry. Like it always pays to go deeper and figure out what's going on in the background. And, you know, maybe that dog trainer, maybe that dog that you're about to train, maybe it doesn't have a problem with, like, I don't know, doormats. Maybe it has a problem with door thresholds. And I only say that because
exactly.
It won't cross the threshold because it's scared of door thresholds.
Exactly. And I think it's one of those instances where, like, when you're a hammer, everything looks like a nail. You know, you're like, oh, well, I'm a copywriter, so I will write the copy, and you're fine, and you don't really care, and then you move on, and then, you know, and oftentimes the client isn't necessarily going to come back and tear you a new one if the sales content doesn't work, but I find a lot of copywriters blame themselves when things don't. Yeah. So taking the time to sort of do that strategy piece and assess the business and assess what the client actually needs first before you're just like, you know, taking orders. I think is huge to protect your sanity and to also increase the skill set. Business strategy is fun, man. Like if you have a grip on it, if you understand sort of the ebbs and flows of the market and where things are leaning, if you start watching this stuff, it's like a game almost. You're like, well, we could play this hand, but I have it on good authority that XYZ is about to change. So here's what I suggest. And that makes you, first of all, irreplaceable as a subcontractor. And it makes the whole experience a lot more fun, interesting, and the results better.
Yeah. Well, I would love to keep talking to you all day, but we've been talking for half an hour now, which is...
Oh my God, already? What?
I know, right? I know. I do have just one more quick question though.
Yes.
You guys have, you and Margot have this fantastic YouTube channel.
Oh, thank you.
It's so
We've got an episode with you coming up.
I know, I'm so excited. I can't wait. I'm so excited because that was so much fun to do. But yeah, you yell at websites. Can you just tell me why you started yelling at websites and what that was all about?
Well, somebody had to do it. Those websites were just out of line. But no, so Mario and I actually first met in like 2017, I want to say. A few years ago. People think we've been friends for a lot longer, and we're like, yeah, it's true. But it was one of those situations where we were just like, we met and we were like, did we just become best friends? And we were like, yeah. But we have similar attitudes. We have a similar sense of humor about the online space. And so we would, you know, talk to each other, meet up for drinks, and just like have these conversations. And then it occurred to us that, you know, maybe other people would want to participate. And there was one night where we went out to dinner and like, went out for Thai food and we killed this bottle of wine. And then we went to this dive bar. We were in Union Square in Manhattan. And then we went to this like dark, dingy dive bar for a nightcap and like a final drink. And she starts talking about pricing strategy. And I was like, wait a minute. Give me your phone. I'm going to video you. She's like, no, don't video me. I don't do video because I'm Margot and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, give me your freaking phone, Margot. So I was like, and then give me your phone. I'm going to give you mine. So we actually switched phones and she started recording commentary on my phone on IG and Instagram Live or IGTV. And I started recording on hers and people were thrilled by it. They thought it was so funny. we were just having this like really animated conversation as we do. So we were like, okay, you know what? Maybe there's something to this. Why don't we put together, you know, a silly YouTube show? Why? She was like, well, let's do a podcast. I was like, I don't want to do a podcast, Margot, because everyone at the time, you know, there was such a surge. I was like, let's make it a YouTube channel because, you know, our facial expressions are half the fun, really. But she came up with the name. We were like, what do we call this thing? She was like, how about Hillary and Margot yell at websites? And I was like, wait, that's actually perfect. And we're naming it that. She was like, no, oh God. And I was like, HAMYAL is a great acronym. It's memorable, it sticks in your head. There's probably gonna be no competition, so we'll win SEO forever. Let's do it. And we ended up doing 2 episodes, and it was really, you know, it was just really fun, and it came naturally to us. And we were doing screen shares a lot more at the time than we do now, and it kind of has morphed into more of this conversation for business owners who, as we like to say, have kind of run out of map. So while we welcome newbies and beginners as well, it's more for people kind of in the mid to high range who are like, all right, I took the courses, like I've got clients, I've got all this stuff going on, but man, no one's answering my questions about like how I price myself now. Nobody's answering my questions about like how to experiment in my business, or like, what do I do with all this imposter syndrome? Or like, what do I do if I put something out there that totally embarrasses me? Like, will I ever recover, or do I die here? And those have been a lot of the conversations we've been having lately. And it's just been really fun. It's become, we set out to create a cult hit marketing show, and we really did. And we're really proud of that. We have an amazing, fabulous audience. We just crossed another subscriber milestone, which was a delight. We're very excited.
Awesome.
But it's just been a really wonderful experience and a really fun diversion, in some ways, a really fun creative outlet. We're going to be doing some more episodes, you know, in the coming weeks, especially on around, you know, what's going on in the world right now with Corona. But it has been a really beautiful way for us to talk about what's on our minds and to kind of share our perspective, because we've both been in business for a long time. And, you know, it's almost 10 years for me. I think it's about the same for Margot. And so just getting a chance to kind of sit down and talk and have really candid conversations. It's not really scripted. Like, we know what we want to talk about. We have our points, but you know, you were filming with us, but we'll, you know, get on and just have a chat. And then we go through, you know, edit out the boring things, and just put those conversations out there for people, because we didn't want to have like the Sermon on the Mount kind of experience for our viewers. We just wanted to feel like you're sitting down with your 2 best friends and we're all just shooting the shit and talking about, you know, how we see things. There's no real prescriptive answers. We don't really have any how-to guides, except we have how to rebrand like a beast, which was a good one. But it's just really sharing that perspective and our respective statement pieces, that, you know, business doesn't have to be so scary, and you can get through whatever life throws at you, as long as you stay agile and focused and keep good people around you.
Yeah, and the business can be fun. I freaking love your YouTube show. Honestly, it's a bloody breath of fresh air, and not just because you're both really funny, but because you always make me think. And I think that's quite a rare thing these days with all the noise online, and everybody's saying the same thing, and everybody's trying virtue signaling to the and I just and your emails are the same. Both of you, your emails are the same. And it's just like, you make people think and you say what you believe, and you don't really, well, on the surface, I'm sure you suffer from the same stuff everybody else, but on the surface, like, you don't give that many fucks what other people think. That's really important, and especially for women in business as well, because we're told to sit down and shut up and shrink even today.
Yeah.
What you said earlier about having a big personality is more of that.
Yeah, thank you. I'm trying. It's just like someone's got to represent for the poor oppressed extroverts, really. But no, that's absolutely true, and that's actually a really important part of why Margot and I decided to do this, because we were like, there are a lot of women in the space, but you know, there are a lot of really brilliant women in the space. But I think in terms of the candid conversations that we're having, and it's the fact that a lot of our conclusions are like, what is the fix for this? We don't know, but here's what we've tried. I think that's really refreshing for people, and it also makes for a much more entertaining conversation.
Yes, and having said that, we needed to finish 7 minutes ago, I think.
Oh, God, sorry.
Whoa. No, that was my fault, because I was just like, well, it doesn't matter, I don't care, because, you know, that was really cool. And now I'm babbling. Right, so thank you so much for coming on the show. This has been awesome. Now I've had you and Margot on the show, which has been great. I think at some point I'm going to need to get both of you on at once.
Yes, yeah, we just did a joint interview Monday, and it was so much fun, so bring us on, please.
Right, I'm gonna make that happen then. That's gonna be really cool. And yeah, so check out Hillary at hillaryweiss.com. The link will be in the show notes. It will also be in the emails and on my website. And yeah, stay safe in these challenging and interesting times. So isn't that an old Chinese curse? May you live in interesting times.
Yes. Ooh, here we are, aren't we?
Yeah,
Thank you so much for having me. This was a blast.
thank you, Hillary. You've been an absolute star.
We'll see you soon, I hope.